Odometer tampering is now a felony in the state of Georgia, and lawmakers are crediting not only Atlanta News First Investigates, but the legendary Better Call Harry.
Oh, come on.
I'm Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe, joined by investigative reporter and consumer investigator Harry Samler, and this is Behind the Investigation.
Thank you very much for that introduction. It's a team effort. I had help on this.
Yeah, but it is something when we do get a law passed, and in this case, by sort of exposing that this problem was out there, but not only that, but it was a low-level misdemeanor.
It was. We had no idea that this was a low-level misdemeanor and how common it is and how many cars are out there that have tampered odometers. You think about the days when I was young and where people would physically
mechanically dial them back. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now everything's electronic where you can just pull the cluster out of the car and replace it with the cluster from another car and with a different mileage on it. So it's very common. And the thing about this is we weren't trying to change a law. We were trying to hold somebody accountable for what they were doing. Well, the Motor Vehicle Board saw the story, and one of them said to the chairman, "Hey, did you know that it's just a misdemeanor?" And the other was like, "No," and they decided they were going to do something about it, and they did.
And talking to Chairman Powell and myself, it seemed like all of my life, it was a felony if you tampered with an odometer. I'm not sure how that got changed.
Georgia State Representative John Corbett is chairman of the House Committee on Motor Vehicles. He says the committee had no idea that odometer fraud was a misdemeanor in Georgia when it met last year to discuss a bill about veterans' license plates.
And then one of my colleagues sent me a clip of the news report that you did. You see the dangers in this video that we had.
The allegations sparked an Atlanta News First investigation.
The Atlanta News First investigation that changed Senate Bill 293's direction was about a first-time car buyer who bought this 2013 Honda Ridgeline.
You loved the car.
I did.
And you were like, I'm buying this car.
Yeah.
Shadeja Johnson and her mom found it on Facebook Marketplace. It was advertised with 153,000 miles.
And seen a Honda with great mileage, and I was like, oh God, this is the right thing.
The right thing turned into a big mistake. That night, they got a check engine light. The next day, they got a mechanic.
And he was like, the gauge is reading on here. He was like, when you just bought this car? I said, literally yesterday. And he said, oh.
The mechanic suspected what a Carfax history report confirmed. They bought a truck with 285,000 miles, nearly double the mileage advertised.
It's a shame that somebody, there's people out there take advantage of, especially this 18-year-old young lady, first car. We knew we had to do something to strengthen the penalty, consumer protection. If you look at the picture on the screen up here, this is a young lady.
In February, Corbett went to lawmakers to talk about our investigation, but there was more to the story. The broker who sold Shadeja the car gave her a refund after mom complained, but a few days later, it was up for sale again on Facebook Marketplace with the same incorrect mileage. Believe it or not, we found it parked outside a Peachtree Corners bowling alley. Here's where it gets weird. We found dozens of other cars for sale parked nearby. They were parked near a building that is home to more than 100 small used car brokers.
We've got one here. We've got one here.
For days, we watched people taking photos of cars and moving them from one office building to another. The only way to find out what was going on was to get some of the vehicle identification numbers and check the mileage with the corresponding Facebook ads. Carfax agreed to run the history reports. Out of 9 cars, 5, including this Lexus, had major mileage discrepancies. Some of the cars were off by 130,000 miles. We called the city of Peachtree Corners about it, and coincidentally, the cars disappeared the next day, all of them. But where'd they go?
You're not Hassan. Are you Hassan?
Hey, give us a minute, please.
Are you Hassan?
Give us a minute, man.
One of the sellers messaged us to go to a shopping center on Covington Highway.
And here is that ridge line.
We found Shadeja's Honda again, that Lexus, and some of the other cars. And we found the seller,
You're not Dennis, are you?
Dennis S. Lewis, with DD Auto Brokers. He tried to explain.
But usually when customer come out, you have to explain to them that the mileage is not right.
It wasn't adding up. So we asked Gwinnett County Police if it had any reports about DD Auto Brokers. Detective Torrin Huff said yes, several. He started an investigation that would eventually change the law.
None of them mentioned that it was disclosed to them that there was an odometer rollback when they purchased their vehicles, which is a pretty big red flag when it was checked on some of the bill of sales.
I love it.
After our story aired, we got an email from another DD Auto Brokers customer who lives in Opelika, Alabama. Remember the Lexus we showed you earlier? John Groneman bought it.
Oh, here's the Lexus.
He watched our story, and there it was, with a mileage discrepancy over 77,000 miles.
And then a list started scrolling up, and I paused it and looked, and mine was the first one on the list. And I think for the next 5 hours, I felt pretty nauseous.
Groneman filed a police report, and Detective Huff got a warrant. Lewis turned himself in, bonded out, and has not been charged. That's when we discovered that under Georgia law, odometer fraud was a misdemeanor. House Committee member Alan Powell had plenty to say about that.
So if you're tampering with an odometer, that should be a felony. People used to go to prison for that.
In February, the Motor Vehicle Committee amended the Veterans License Plate Bill to include odometer fraud. It made it a felony with fines from $1,500 to $10,000 and possible prison time. It passed unanimously, going into effect July 1st, 2026.
Next to buying a house, usually your automobile is the second largest purchase that someone makes.
Right.
So we needed to do something to address that issue, and I'm glad you uncovered that.
So let's go back to the broker, DD Auto Brokers. His case is still in the system.
Yeah, he's not been found guilty of any crimes so far. At least
He has not. That's just where the case is right now. But once if he's officially charged, it's still a misdemeanor.
Because if he is found guilty of this, he would have committed those crimes when it was a misdemeanor. You can't retroactively go back and change it to a felony.
That's correct. So he could be fined like up to $1,000. But again, that'll be up to a court.
And he's considered innocent unless and until proven guilty.
That is correct. I'm going to make that clear.
But it is important that this actually got results one way or the other, because your story was Exhibit A for the General Assembly. And, it's not easy to get a law passed through any legislature, but the Georgia General Assembly is set up to where, it gets to the finish line, or it doesn't make it on crossover day, or it passes the Senate but doesn't pass the House, or in the last minute it becomes a zombie bill and they insert something else in there with a giant amendment. In this case, they actually got it passed. The governor signed it. It's now law. It's a felony. When we talk about misdemeanors in Georgia, speeding is a misdemeanor. So essentially it was effectively the same as a speeding ticket for rolling back an odometer. Do you think that lack of a penalty actually led to more people doing it?
I'm speculating at it's almost like saying to the person who's about to commit a crime, do they really think about what the penalty is before they commit? Probably not. How this ended up being a misdemeanor, I mean, the people on the motor vehicle board were kind of scratching their heads because they always thought it was. It's really hard to say.
Yeah,
I think it's going to continue. But the fact is, though, that this bill also authorizes funding for 2 new investigators. Now, that's big, because you can have a law on the books, but if it's not being enforced, then, now there's going to be more oversight. So maybe these investigators can go on Facebook and look for other listings where they didn't show a VIN and they put the mileage, and then you find out, something else is going on.
No, those two investigators are important because, the average patrol officer isn't going to know it's a felony and isn't going to do a major investigation on this if it's a complaint from a citizen. Which raises the question, what do I do as someone who's buying a used car? My daughter is now, of driving age, and she's going to need a car, and obviously I can't afford a new car for her, so I'm going to go buy a used car. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. What do I look out for?
We just dealt with this, and we heard from a mother who was buying a car for her daughter who goes to USC, South Carolina, and just wanted something, basic to drive back and forth. And this is a friend of a friend. Anyway, she started texting me listings, and the listings were brokers. Now, there are brokers out there who are just fine. And people should know the difference between a broker and a dealer. A broker doesn't have to have a lot where they keep the cars. They're basically, in effect, e-commerce dealers. And there's a bunch of them in Georgia. And that's another story that we're working on. There's over 4,000 e-brokers in Georgia. Some of them don't sell any cars. Some of them sell one car. But how much do you know about this person when they don't even have a lot where you can go pre-inspect the car? That's the takeaway here. If you're going to do that, you still have to have the agreement that you can take that car before you sign the bill of sale to a mechanic that where they're going to put it, not just put it up on the lift. You want that car up on the lift.
Should I go to the lot or when there's no lot in the case of a broker, but when I go to look at the car, should I bring one of those OBD2 scanners and plug it into underneath the dash? Can't that show me the VIN?
Well, yeah,
not just the VIN, I mean the mileage? The actual mileage?
No, actually.
Really?
So on this particular story, how many people, well, you and I have OBD readers, but how many?
I do because Harry Samler told me to get one.
But how many people go out and do that? Well, I know on this particular car that when they scanned the computer, the mileage that came up was the lower mileage.
Because the computer is in the cluster that was replaced from the other car.
Right. The computer was reading the cluster.
Interesting.
So they figured it out because the mechanic pulled up the Carfax report, and the daughter looked over there and saw it on the computer screen and saw the last emissions test, and that's how they found out. But that's how they're beating it. So you might get something that says it's 150,000 miles, and there is a big market, by the way, for cars in that because the price point comes down.
Yeah, big time.
If you
because the repair cost goes way up too. Yeah.
Right. But
generally speaking.
If you're looking for a car under $10,000,
it's the only way these days. I mean, that's the other thing is cars have become so expensive. The median cost is over $40,000 now for a new car. I mean, I know that's inflation, but I mean, you and I are old enough to remember when you could get a car for $12,000.
Yeah, I think my sister paid $14,000 for a really fancy Nissan back then. Anyway, the point is, though, that even with all of this, even if the mileage is wrong, you take it to a mechanic and they're going to put it up and they're going to scan. Then they start testing the fluids if they're doing it right, and they're looking for leaks. And we have a great video online where you can watch what happened in this particular story. And the woman ended up buying the car, but she found out a lot of things that she didn't know about. And one of them, I'm taking credit, I pointed out to the mechanic. I'm like, and it was almost a deal breaker. It was one of like the main seals on the rear of the car. Turns out that they were able to fix it. She was able to go back to the dealership because she changed cars a couple of times and decided finally to go to an actual dealership and negotiated down the price by $1,000.
Wow. So that more than covered the cost of the inspection.
That's correct. And the inspection was $150.
Wow. And so for somebody who says, I don't have $150 to go spend on inspection, It's not that can you afford it, can you afford not to do it?
No,
because
you
a
can't.
repair might be $2,500 or $4,000. I
There's-
mean, if it's a bad engine, forget it.
Right, and there people think that you can go out and you can buy the aftermarket warranty, or they think that they can just look at the Carfax and drive the car and it drives nicely. But there is nothing that beats a professional set of eyes. That they were looking at things that I didn't catch, obviously, because I'm not a mechanic, but it was like, they know if you get a good mechanic, they know how to look at the lines of the car where the hood lines up, and you can actually see that this car has a replacement hood because it was aftermarket and it doesn't quite fit right. And you're like, oh, this car's been in a wreck, but there's nothing on the Carfax. So listen, that's the best way to do it.
You know what I love is that other stations, we don't name them, they say better call the police or better call your lawmaker. And we say better call Harry. Because in this case, Harry, they're watching you. And when I say they, I mean the lawmakers. And so the General Assembly watches Better Call Harry and then does something about it. So your reporting's making a difference, and you're making our community safer, because now when my family goes to buy a car, I know that if they're messing around with that odometer, they're looking at an actual felony and prison time, possibly.
And I appreciate that. And I just hope that this story keeps spreading out there. We could do these every day. And then, by the way, lawmakers gave us another story about something that we're working on now. And it's like that may end up changing a law, but this time they thought of it.
Wow. Well, see? And you know what the lawmakers said? Better call Harry.
Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks for joining us for Behind the Investigation.
Thanks for tuning in to Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. For more on this story, go to atlantanewsfirst.com and click on the ANF Investigates tab. You can listen to more award-winning investigations wherever you get your podcasts by searching Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First. And tune in Sundays for an hour-long episode of Uncovered, where we highlight some of our biggest investigations that impact our communities.